Why do men still want to get married in 2025? That is the question we are asking ourselves today. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story time, and I want you to think about instances in your own life where men have rejected you or ghosted you, and then 6 months down the line, a year down the line, or maybe the next week after, they come crawling back only to fulfill the same cycle over and over again. I met this guy on a matrimonial site, and I should probably make an entirely separate video just on my experiences using a matrimonial site. But anyway, so we met on a matrimonial site, and things started off really well. Like, we had great chemistry, we had good conversations, he was funny, he was charming. On paper, he was pretty good at first, of course. There were some red flags early on, like he would be a little bit inconsistent in terms of, like, he would say he was going to call me at a certain time, like, oh, I'll call you at 8 p.m. tonight, and then he never would, and then he would never also, like, let me know, like, hey, I can't talk to you tonight or anything like that. He would just disappear and, like, leave me hanging. So that was, like, one of the early signs that I should have just ended things with him right then and there. But of course, I was new to dating. I didn't really know those things. So part of the purpose of my video today is to kind of just give some guidance to younger women, and it's for all women really, to give them some insight into certain dating dynamics. So back to my story, sorry. So everything was going really great at first. We went on a couple dates. It was really cute. He took me on some pretty good dates. I will give him that. Like, he was definitely making efforts early on. But very, very, very quickly, as I said, he started being dry. He started being flaky. He started being more inconsistent, canceling plans, canceling phone calls, eventually he ended up ghosting me. And I had never been ghosted before. This is pretty much one of my first instances of ghosting, what I consider actual ghosting. So in my opinion, ghosting is not just when, you're in a talking phase with a person on a dating app. I feel like and they just stop talking to you after like 2 days. I feel like ghosting is more so when you really hit it off with someone, you actually meet them in person, you meet them multiple times in person, and things are going really well, and then just out of nowhere he disappears. To me, that's ghosting. So, it's more hurtful. It's more like, it's more hurtful, basically. So I would consider that ghosting. So yeah, this was my first instance of ghosting. I didn't even know what it was at the time, because when you're being ghosted, oftentimes you don't actually know you're getting ghosted, right? You keep thinking like, oh, maybe he's really busy, or maybe something happened to his phone, but no, he is definitely ignoring you, girl. Like, after the initial ghosting, he ended up like coming back, I think probably like a month later or a few weeks later. And of course I was annoyed, but I just gave him a second chance, and the same thing would happen. He was never as into me as he was in the beginning. And then when he came back again into my life, his text messages became drier and drier. They became shorter and shorter. And of course, eventually, I stopped, putting in any effort. But it was really irritating to me, because I didn't know what was going on at the time, and I was really being led on, and I was very confused. And so we did end up having a falling out over this issue, because he was just super flaky and inconsistent, right? Like, he would talk to me for like a couple days, and then he would disappear. And this went on and on. He would disappear back into the abyss for 3 months, 4 months, and then he would always come back. And he would always come back to me. I was never chasing him. I learned eventually that, okay, this person is very inconsistent, he's very flaky, he doesn't really like me. So I would not go out of my way to contact him anymore at this point. But he was always trying to get back in touch with me. So every few months, he would come back into my life. We would start up a conversation again. And my fault is that I would entertain it and, we would chat for a bit. And then he would, of course, disappear again for another few months. And then he would come back again after like a year or so. And then we would be talking for like a month and then he would disappear. And during these cycles of him coming in and out of my life, we would make plans to meet up. And of course, he would always find a way to cancel those plans. And he would have the wildest excuses. To this day, I don't know if he was telling the truth or not, but he would say things like, oh, I got into a car accident, or I'm really sick. But his sickness was just like some outrageous sickness that, the way he described his illness, it didn't even make sense. And then the wildest thing was, we were trying to his initial excuse for why he ghosted me in the first place was that he was skydiving one day. He jumped out of a plane and his parachute did not open in time. He obviously survived, so I guess he figured it out, but apparently that gave him some PTSD or something, so he wasn't in the right headspace to meet with me or talk to me. Same thing with the car accident. He was just not in the right headspace emotionally to talk to me, which of course is bullshit. But whatever. I wasn't really taking him seriously at this point. I was just very annoyed, of course, and, I did genuinely like him. I wouldn't say I was in love with him because we never really got the chance to fall in love because he was kind of always doing this shit to me. So, I couldn't really develop feelings, but you still feel annoyed, right? If someone's treating you like an option, treating you like a second choice, they're only coming around when they're bored and lonely and they want to talk to you, and then they disappear whenever you fulfill whatever emotional needs or validation they wanted to get from you, right? Well, so a lot of men do that. Come into your life, vampirize your energy, build themselves up, their confidence or whatever, or whatever it is that we offer to men, like our emotional labor. They just take that and then they just disappear, back into the abyss. Eventually, we were in touch on and off for years. And it's kind of unbelievable because I've known this person literally for years. I don't know how many years it's been, maybe 7, 8 years. And in that time, we've only met I think 4 times. I think so. Either 3 or 4 times we've only met in all those years, which is ridiculous. And we don't live in it wasn't a long distance type of situation. He was just that flaky and inconsistent. At one point, I did consider him like a friend, sort of, or a confidant. And at one point, especially when I was going through really difficult times in my life, I really opened up to him about things that were happening to me. And I was actually very, very vulnerable to him, and I still can't decide whether or not I regret doing that. Maybe I shouldn't have been so open with him, but I think I just really needed to get certain things off my chest. But even so, I had already kind of emotionally detached from him because I knew there was not going to be any future. The thing is, he always seemed to reappear whenever I was at my lowest. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of fuckboy radar. So fuckboy radar is absolutely a scientific fact, in my opinion, because it does seem to me like me and him were telepathically connected in the sense that he seemed to always know, even not being in my life for months at a time, he seemed to always know when I was moving on, forgetting about him, dating other people. He seemed to always know when I was at a very, very low point in my life. Those were the times when he, I think, remembered me and reached out to me, which is crazy, but it definitely does happen. He had really, really, really good fuckboy radar, that's for sure. As you could imagine, after going back and forth like this, after a while, it gets really old. Being treated as an option gets old pretty fast. So as you could imagine, I would eventually block him, right? And I haven't spoken to him, I think, since this summer actually. And when I say I spoke to him, what I mean is, if you look at our messages, it's basically just me telling him to, like, okay, just leave me alone now. Like, it's been years. It's never gonna happen between us. We're never even gonna meet up in person as friends to have a coffee. Because you have like every excuse in the book why you can't even meet up with me. Even if I, offer to take an Uber and go to meet you, you still have an excuse. So, I knew it was not gonna happen. So I told him, just stop talking to me, leave me alone. I am totally want nothing to do with you. I blocked him. And, the other night, actually, I got a phone call, random phone call in the middle of the night from a number I wasn't familiar with. And of course, as you might have guessed, it was him. Even though I had blocked him, he called me, I guess using someone else's phone. So he still kept my number, which is weird. Um, it's weird when I tell you what I'm about to tell you, but I was shocked. I was completely taken aback. And I had honestly, genuinely kind of forgot about him. Like, he was not on my radar at all. I'm totally in a different direction in my life right now, so I wasn't really paying attention to him at all. I only thought about him like when I go through my messages and then I see our chat there and I'm like, ugh, what an idiot. I hate him. Like, that's about as far as I think. That's about as far as I thought about him. So it definitely took me by surprise that he came out of the blue to call me. And I was honestly very flattered. I even teased him a little bit about how, like, oh, you came crawling back, haha. The reason why he called me was to basically apologize to me for everything that he had put me through years ago. Which is crazy, right? Like, what, 7 years after the fact, calling someone and apologizing to them. It's weird to me. I don't really know how to feel. I'm not sure if this is really even a sincere apology, because he really he said all the right things. Like, he's very good with words. He said that how he really mistreated me. I think he said I didn't deserve it, and that he had really caused me a lot of emotional pain. And at one point, yes, I would say that's true. I told him that he doesn't need to apologize to me because whatever happened between us happened like 7 years ago, and we've both already moved on and we've both already healed. So in our conversation, he explained to me that he was actually engaged recently, which really surprised me because he was trying to message me since July of this year, I think. June, July, something like that. And he told me that he was recently engaged and he was getting nervous about the engagement. Of course, like, who is surprised by that? Like, surprise, surprise. He was getting cold feet. He was having second thoughts. He was having doubts. He didn't say this, but I'm sure he was putting that girl through some hell, right? Some emotional torture, basically. He also told me that his mother had sadly passed away, which I'm sure really just messed him up even more. So naturally, the wedding was postponed. But eventually, the girl, surprisingly, canceled the wedding. I would have thought that he canceled it, but he told me that she actually canceled it. And he also told me that he was actively trying to convince her to go back with him, which I had to side-eye that a little bit. It dawned on me at that point that he was only apologizing to me to ease his own guilt, A, and B, to reverse the karma that had been inflicted on him due to his own actions. And he actually said that repeatedly, like, oh, I got what I deserved. The karma came back to me because of what I did to you. I don't know about you, but I feel like that's kind of like, that's a fake, selfish apology. If you're only apologizing to me because bad things are happening to you all at once, and you think by apologizing to me, like, good things will start happening to you, I feel like that is a very fake and selfish apology. Like, where was all this apology, like, years ago? You know? So do I forgive him? I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know how to feel about that. Because after our conversation, he asked me, are you okay? I just want to make sure you're okay. Like, how is your family? How's your job? And I was kind of getting emotional, to be honest. I didn't want to show him that, so I was trying to like stay strong, but I tried to be as cold and distant from him as possible, and I really tried to cut the conversation short because I was so over entertaining him on any level at this point. But after that conversation, after we hung up, I honestly cried for the rest of the night. Him reaching out to me out of the blue just like that and apologizing to me and telling me how he met someone and then he got married and then blah, blah, blah. All this stuff, it just really messed with my head, and it shouldn't. But it just brought back so many memories and so many emotions and so many insecurities. I just cried for the rest of the night. And I'm not sure why I cried. I don't know. I think it just brought up so many emotions in me, as I said. To that girl, whoever she is, his fiance or ex-fiance, I'm really, really, really proud of her. I think this is a very smart girl, and I really wish that I had done the same thing to him way back when. So she's obviously very mature. She has a lot of self-esteem, a good head on her shoulders, and I really hope that she doesn't take him back, to be honest. I'm not saying I never want him to get married and move on or whatever, but I want him to do it right, like earn it this time. And I hope he doesn't manipulate her, because he's very good. He manipulated me and strung me along for years. So I know he can easily manipulate someone into giving him a second chance. The thing that she doesn't know, that she might not know, is if you give this man, this type of person, a second chance, you will undoubtedly be giving him a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th chance. You'll be giving him chances for your entire marriage. And if he's already showing you that he has some doubts, if he's hesitating, if he has cold feet, I mean, it's not going to get better. He is always going to be doubting the relationship. In my opinion, if it was bad enough for her to call off the wedding, like for a woman to call off a wedding, that's a big deal. So he didn't really give me any details about what he did to her, but I'm sure it was bad enough that he definitely deserved an entire wedding being canceled. So don't worry, I did block him. I blocked him, I deleted his number. There's pretty much no way he can contact me again. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention is, okay, going back to my initial topic of why do men still want to get married in 2025. Okay, so I fully told him during our conversation that my honest advice is that you should not get married at all. You should stay single. Focus on yourself, enjoy being single, don't get married, because it seems to me like you really, really, really don't want commitment. Like your actions speak much louder than your words. You don't want commitment. You can't even commit to meeting someone for coffee. So you cannot commit to a marriage. You can't commit to a relationship at all. And of course, he told me that, no, I really want a partner. I really want to get married one day. I really need someone in my life because I feel like if I don't have a partner, I'm just going to be at home alone. So basically, what he said he said he was afraid to be alone without saying that he was afraid to be alone. He didn't want to be lonely, basically. So that is the real takeaway here, is that men, they just don't want to be lonely. It's not because he met this girl and she was just so beautiful and so nice and so amazing and he just wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. No, he didn't want to be lonely. So what was the point of this whole video? Well, I just wanted to share my story, share my experiences, and, I hope I can help some other young women who are going through this situation. Just know that if a man ghosts you, he's probably going to come back into your life at some point or another. A lot of my exes or men who have ghosted me have always come back into my life. They've always tried. I don't entertain it anymore, but they're always gonna try. Don't fall for it. Don't go back, because if they can leave you once, they will probably leave you again and again and again. Statistically, if a man loses interest in you really quickly, in the relationship, chances are he's not going to develop more feelings for you. He's not going to change his mind. That's another thing I wanted to discuss. If you're not good enough now, you probably never will be quote unquote good enough. So there's no point in trying to change yourself or trying to convince the guy to like you or you're the best choice, because at the end of the day, as cliche as this sounds, it's really not about you. You could be the most beautiful, nicest woman in the world. Like, I'm sure his ex-fiance is a lovely person, but if a man is afraid of commitment, if he's afraid of basically quote unquote being tied down, it doesn't matter how amazing you are. He doesn't want to commit to you. I think that's one of the other major takeaways from this video, is that if a man rejects you, if he doesn't want to be with you for whatever reason, yeah, you don't have to convince him. You don't have to try harder to be prettier or skinnier or nicer or whatever you think is going to change his mind. No, his mind will not change because it's not even really about you. So what do you think? Do you agree or do you disagree with what I've had to say today? I would love to know your opinions, and I would love to get a conversation started. So please leave me a comment if you like my video, or if you don't like it, whatever, all comments are welcome. And please like and subscribe for more content like this. And remember, you are an entitled princess and the main character. Bye!